Hi friends, this is Atul again and you're watching Frankly Curious FC. In this video, I'm going to start off by talking about a new operating system that's being developed by Google called Fuchsia. Fuchsia has an interesting spelling. It's Fuchsia. And when I saw that word in the newspaper for the first time, I was like, oh my god, how am I going to spell this word out? And in my mind, I was reading it as Fuchsia. And I was definitely sure that that's not the exact pronunciation. So I went to Wikipedia and I found out the exact pronunciation, and it was Fuchsia. So before I start talking about Fuchsia, let me say some things about operating systems. Because Fuchsia is an operating system. Operating system is basically a software. Now when I say software, there is also something called hardware and even firmware. So I'm going to say a few sentences about all these, trying to define and help you understand what exactly is a software, a hardware and a firmware. So first let me talk about hardware. Hardware are those things that are physical, that you can touch and feel, like the keyboard of a computer, the mouse, the monitor, the motherboard, the video card, the sound card, the webcam, etc. Software is something different. It's very difficult for me to define what's a software because it's hard to understand what is a software just from its definition. So I'm going to give you some examples of what are softwares and hope you'd understand or get an idea about what a software is. So here I'm going to give a list of softwares. We have softwares like Microsoft Office Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, MS Paint, Calculator, Photoshop, Adobe Reader, PageMaker, VLC Media Player, Windows Media Player, Nero, Final Cut Pro, Nuendo, Pro Tools, AutoCAD, 3ds Max, SketchUp, Finale, Sibelius, Kaspersky, Node, AVG, Avast, and so many. These things that I said just now are softwares, and more specifically they are called application softwares because these are things that help us to do some specific job, specific task. If you want to get a task done, you will need both hardware and software. Hardware alone cannot do a task, software alone cannot do a task. They both need to exist together, and only then can you get the task done. Now there comes operating system. Operating system is also a software, but it's a big software, or more specifically it's called a system software. It's so big and so powerful, its main job is to make the hardware and the software work together, harmonize them, and finally get the job done. I'm going to give again examples. If you need to take a picture, you will need the hardware, which is the camera, the flash, the lens, and the other stuff, especially the chips inside, and all the hardware that you can touch and see and feel, all the physical things of camera. But with just having all those hardware itself, you cannot take a picture. You also need the software, the camera software or the camera app. Only if both of them work together can you get a picture, can you take a picture. Now talking about software, let me also add on. You might have heard about apps like YouTube app, Google Maps app, Gmail app, Google Play Music app, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. There are millions of apps. All these apps are also software. I can give one more example, that is playing music from a CD. If you need to play music from a CD, you will need a CD drive in which you insert the CD, and then you will need a software like VLC Media Player or Windows Media Player to work with the hard drive, that is a CD drive and the other stuff inside it, and finally get the music out of the CD and into the speakers and through the speakers, and you can hear it. So that's basically the software and hardware working together. If they have to work together, you will need an operating system, which is the king of all softwares, which is the main thing in a computer that helps your hardware and your software to work together and finally get your requirements or jobs done. Now let me also say a few things about something called firmware. Devices like washing machines, watches, and car stereo players also have something that is similar to an operating system that is inside them. We call it firmware, which helps the hardware to function. Now that I have given you an idea about what an operating system is, let me give you some examples of operating systems. To start off, we have Windows. Windows has many versions like Windows 98, Windows 2000, then came Windows XP, and then came Windows Vista, and then came Windows 7, then Windows 8, and now we have Windows 10. Windows operating system is actually manufactured and maintained by the company called Microsoft. We also have operating systems by other companies also, like Mac OS, which is the operating system used in computers that are manufactured by Apple. We also have Linux operating systems like Ubuntu and Red Hat. And we also have the Chrome OS, which is used in devices that are manufactured by Google. Now I would like to say some more things regarding operating systems. Operating systems are not just for computers. Operating systems do exist for mobile devices like cell phones or smartphones and tablets. Devices or phones like Sony, Asus, Motorola, Lenovo, Vivo, Oppo, etc. use an operating system called Android, which is produced by a company Google. Android has so many versions. We have KitKat, Lollipop, Marshmallow, Nougat, Jelly Bean, and the latest it's Oreo. Also, we have Apple iPhones and iPads and iPods, which use a mobile OS called the iOS, which also has different versions like iOS 7, 8, iOS 9, and more recently iOS 10. Now I'm ready to say the best features of Fuchsia, Google Fuchsia. Google Fuchsia is an operating system that can work on computers, cell phones, and even in your car stereo player. That means it can act even as a firmware. Google Fuchsia is a cross-platform operating system. Another thing about Google Fuchsia is that it uses a totally new kernel called Zircon. Let me take a few minutes to say what a kernel is. A kernel is basically the core of any operating system. Google had two operating systems till now, the Chrome OS for computers and the Android OS for its smartphones and tablet devices. Now, Google used something called the Linux kernel for both Chrome OS and your Android. But now for Fuchsia, Google has come up with a new kernel called the Zircon kernel, which is totally new. So you might be remembering me telling about application softwares. So the best part about Google Fuchsia is that an application software that you have in your computer can also be used in your phone also. And it can also work with your car stereo player or any other embedded device. So it's a cross-platform operating system Fuchsia, which gives a lot of possibilities in front of you, and I'm totally excited about Google Fuchsia. Also note that Fuchsia is only at the stage of development and it will take many more months till it reaches your hands as a consumer product. Another thing that I would like to discuss in this video is about today, May 1st, 2018. May 1st is celebrated as something we call Mayday, M-A-Y space D-A-Y. It is worth noting that Mayday is a spring festival that is celebrated in European countries. We also have Labor Day, which is also celebrated on May 1st. Labor Day is an international day and is relevant to all the countries. So there is a confusion between May Day and Labor Day. Both are actually different, but they are celebrated on the 1st of May every year. In India, we get a holiday because of Labor Day and not because of May Day. And that brings me to my next point about another term called Mayday, that is M-A-Y-D-A-Y without a space in between May and Day. M-A-Y-D-A-Y, Mayday, is a procedure word. Now what is a procedure word? Let me give you examples of some other procedure words which you might have heard in the movies. We have Roger, copy, over, engage, etc., which are used in radio communications. Procedure words are words which are used in radio communications words which have very specific meanings. Why do we use procedure words? Procedure words are used to convey a particular idea in as short a number of words as possible to improve the efficiency of communication and reduce ambiguity. Procedure words are used by pilots and soldiers and all other people who use radio communication. So please don't confuse between the Mayday, which is celebrated on May 1st, and Mayday. Now let me explain what is Mayday. Mayday is a procedure word which means that help is required. There is an emergency. We require help. So instead of saying, please help me, I am in danger, I need help, all you need to say is Mayday, Mayday through your radio communication device, and the people listening to it will understand that you require help and you're in an emergency situation and they can take actions. So that's about procedure words. And M-A-Y-D-A-Y, Mayday is a procedure word. And please do not confuse it with the Mayday which we celebrate on May 1st. So that's all I have for you in this video. Thanks for watching. Bye. It is also worth noting that fuchsia is also a name of a plant which has colorful flowers. Pretty attractive.